welcome to the SparkOne YouTube channel. My name is Hui and I'm your host today. And then welcome to join with us together to enter the future of creation. Why? Because we believe we can co-create with anyone on anything. We built a social co-creation app called SparkLand, and then we call ourselves TheSparkOne. And today I'm so honored to introduce Ransom Kong as our speaker today. Hi Ransom, how are you doing today?
Good, Hui, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you here.
I was originally raised on Maui, and I have big families like a lot of Hawaiians do. I'm part Hawaiian, and lived there most of my life, but I've had the opportunity to travel, and I have a degree in education, psychology actually, and a master's in education. I've been a teacher for a long time, but also an entrepreneur, and I specialize in counseling as well. That's part of what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years, besides teaching and being an entrepreneur. Our greatest commodity is time.
Time right now, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can ask one question to next speaker, what would it be?
What is the meaning of your life?
Ooh. That's
because then you hear their story, right?
Right.
You know, you probably will hear what came before to bring them to present, and then you push them to recognize that there's something more, and what will that more be, and then that gives them a purpose. So we only have time, and everybody needs a purpose for their time here. So yeah, it's kind of a deep question in a sense, but hopefully it inspires them to kind of break it down, to unpack it and describe it.
Right, kind of when we talk about meaning, right? So the meaning is very personal, in that kind of the context. And then, so I think that's very spurring question, which is they will kind of allows them to reconnect themselves, and then kind of rediscover a new path forward. I think that would be a good session or good question to kind of go through that, and then it will unpack something, Right?
Yeah, people are filled with insecurities and doubts. But when they start to talk about it, hopefully, somehow in the conversation, because it's a conversation, it's a dialogue, it probably wouldn't just be a monologue, right? The person speaks.
Right.
That you get to help
know
them
about them.
discover, they can hear them self-talking, and then, really explore how to get from A to Z, and along the way you have all these letters in between that they have to stop and recalibrate and keep going forward, that kind of thing. So, with all the insecurities that people have and doubts, once they start talking it through, I think that shines more than the doubts, because I think ultimately we have more hope than hopelessness. We all hope for something better, so you have to start talking about it, and then talk your way through those type of insecurities that you might have, so you can get to that point where, like, okay, this is how I become more fulfilled, because I'm talking about what I can and what I will do, and maybe
I like that.
And what I'm presently doing that is good as well, because I'm sure everybody's doing things in their lives that are good and productive. Maybe they don't maybe they don't stop to give themselves a little credit, build themselves up, and continue going on that path forward. Yeah, and that type of process. So I'm very comfortable talking with people about those kind of things. And it's really interesting, the more I do the type of work that I do, obviously you get back more than you give, and what I've gained more so than gave is insight, insight to people and what makes them tick, and the kind of hopes that they have and the struggles that they're dealing with. But it's the human experience and the human life force that I think people want to discover and move forward. We all have like a life force, but how forceful, how vibrant is that? That's that part where they have to discover it so that they can feel that motivation to push forward. Before I kind of expand on that, I wanted to tell you too that I think the strength that I have is that I find synergy with people. I think my greatest strength is collaborating, and I like that because then you're not an island to yourself. You're not an echo chamber to yourself. And you want people to be different, good values and goals, that sort of a thing, and mindset maybe, but different orientations from life,
perspectives.
Perspectives, so that they bring something different, and then you get something really good. So that those are checks and balances with each other, and that and there, so it's a synergy that you build with people that that you can collaborate with. And so the most important thing is communication. So if you can communicate with people and you can communicate your ideas, communicate your perspectives, and you bring something to the game, then that will be the foundation for, I think, a great relationship, for a great synergy in whatever you're doing. Or I can go specifically into each different thing. So like, let's say for music, I kind of know how I create.
Yeah.
So what I do is I open up my context and I listen to a lot of different music, because we're all borrowing from each other, right? In anything. So
exactly.
Music as well. So I listen to a whole bunch of different type of music, and I don't create anything necessarily. I don't pick up a guitar or a pen or anything like that. And then I kind of work myself into kind of a creative state where I go to sleep and I'm really tired, and I like to be tired, and then I wake up and I already have tunes in my head, like either lyrics and or melodies, because what happens is that I have a whole bunch of input. Then when I sleep, it kind of relaxes my consciousness, right? And it just comes out. And it doesn't always happen like that, but I like to create like that because I think it's more fluid. So I get up, I record melodies that I have, and then, just explore that process, because it always has to be where you're not critiquing yourself at that point. You are exploring and and creating. So then I get on my guitar and I create. I listen to the melodies that I recorded, and then I just go from there, and then I collaborate. And then later on, that's where you kind of pull back and critique, and you see how it fits in a structure of popular music, because I like to write kind of like pop.
Nice.
Yeah. And then same thing for like cryptocurrencies and blockchain. I just do a lot of reading and listening to podcasts and watching videos. I love reading things I like. I mean, I don't like reading everything, but the topics that I love to read, but I don't have as much time to read right now. But and I would get input that way. And then also reach out to a network of people that I know and just talk with them about ideas. And from there, we come up with different ideas of how things can expand, or where there's a niche that is not being fulfilled in the industry, or just reveling in where we're at and hypothesizing where it's going to go. I think that's, that's kind of like the dream state, like when I'm doing music and I'm dreaming. Well, when I'm awake and talking with other people about tech ideas, that's a time where you're kind of like in a dream state. You're in a hyper ecstatic mode, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think that's why I like tech, because tech is that pushing the boundaries, and I like pushing the boundaries. So those are two examples of how a process would go.
That's nice.
And then, for writing, kind of the same idea. Writing is always reiterating. It's always rewriting, and until you get something better. And so, if you have a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop on things, then you're able to, grow and reiterate quicker, So it's the same thing for business, right? With the MVP, you just keep on improving on that. Let's say in writing, sometimes people have a writing block, they call it. And some people, very few, only one I've heard of never has had a writing block. So what's the difference between someone that has a writing block and someone that doesn't? It's letting go of everything that is in between, right? And that's the noise, so that you have a direct line from you, the medium. Not you, the medium. You, the
as a writer.
As a writer, going through a process to, and here's the inspiration over here. How do you get from here to here? And you're also the medium too. The instrument that's being channeled in a sense.
Right.
So, that's the kind of friction. It's more of the internal noise, I think, more so. So you have to put yourself in an environment where you are feel very good. Like some people write really well, and if they're in a certain room or in a certain
right
outdoor setting,
right.
Same kind of deal. So you have to set up the environment externally and internally too. Not have a lot of noise, so that you can,
go through that channel.
Yeah. And really have good sessions, or whatever you want to call it. Just really be focused on what the task is, but in a natural way, by letting it flow. Because like, for instance, you go to a meeting, you have objectives to go through, but how do you get the most out of people, right? You have to set up where everybody feels comfortable, there's no distractions.
Correct.
Yourself and outside. So I think those are the constraints, just
right.
Making an environment where everything can flow.
Right. Both environment and then, like people emotional state or, mind state.
Yeah.
Right. And then somehow you can gradually channel into this potential about synergy path, which is people can naturally contribute and then have a great outputs out of that. So I like that. You describe totally different language. What I typically describe, but I can kind of relate with that.
It's just say it in their own words.
Right. You're more a musician. You're using those languages. So cool.
And focus on it, and let my mind really do a deep dive into it. Yeah. So
that's nice.
Yeah, I think that's one that I live by. And another one that I do for counseling is it goes, if you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got. And basically it means that you have to change a variable to get a different outcome.
Right.
So
That's true.
Those are two of probably many that I have that
Right.
I use throughout a week.
I like that. I like both. I mean, it feels like two mindsets, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can, I mean, often we get stuck, right? Or we have some certain kinds of behaviors, but if you can practice by understanding those mindset, you can kind of switch the gear, I like to stay focused and then live in the moment. And then we do need that today because just too many attentions today.
Yeah, too many distractions, and we all
Right.
have alcohol, but
Right.
yeah.
So the mind and the body, maybe the work can fully
Yeah.
connect it.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing advice. Cool.
I don't know if it's advice, but it's what I live by, or one of the many things.
Oh, the reason I resonate because I sometimes suffer on that, right? Like
Yeah.
right now we live in a home,
Right.
I can work on my bedroom, on my bed or other places, but you
Right.
still need a good practice. So that's awesome.
I've always tried not to be a follower. I've always tried to be a leader. And I think now I'm really recognizing what it takes to be a leader, or at least what it takes not to follow. It's always a process, but if you want to do something really outstanding or distinguished or important, and it's not for me, I have a lot of personal goals, but I have a lot of things I want to do for humanity. So it's kind of like my mission statement. And in order to do that, you have to be uncomfortable, you have to push the boundaries, you have to make sure that you are always open, vulnerable, learning. So I'm proud of the path I've taken in order to do that, because I think my environment doesn't always cater to that. So I've had to kind of produce it myself. It's kind of like an inner drive to say, hey, if I'm going to do something that, is outstanding, then I have to find my own way. So yeah, it's that determination and the passion to find a way to do what I want to do, whereas people don't really think you can, or you don't have the support, or you're not necessarily in the right environment or the most conducive environment for that to prosper or that to happen.
Wow, you describe so good.
Well,
Yeah, I love it. What I heard is this inner voice, right?
Yeah, you got to follow that inner voice. I mean, as a CEO, that you have to do that.
Right.
That's what you do as well, I'm sure.
Right. So I think the inner voice is such a precious, because a lot of people may not be sensitive about that inner voice, but once you recognize that, you start to have a conversation and embrace that, right? And that
how do people know they can follow you unless you show them that you're a leader? And otherwise they'll just think that you're a follower. And so how do you make yourself stand out, not for the sake of standing out, but because you believe that in the inner voice that you are a leader. So
right.
What do you need to do to break away from that, even though other people might not think of you that way, might hold you back from that? Because I think it's a natural tendency for people to say, oh, you're just like me, you're not a leader, and you have to break those conventions.
Right. Oh gosh, that's a path that need a courage and need a training, right? A lot of training and then practice on that. So
yeah, I do think it's a lot of practice. The the most recent, or the present, I should say, business that I'm restarting is called Millennials for Crypto. And basically, we focus on the population that's going to be adopting the technology of cryptocurrency and blockchain more readily than other generations.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're a little bit more tech savvy. They have the right mentality as far as what they think of government and big corporations, and they some are kind of minimalist in the sense of getting rid of too much materialism, which I think is good. Yeah, a little bit more of a lifestyle.
Right.
And maybe that's stereotypical, but I think there is a sector within that generation that definitely thinks that way.
Right.
And I think they're also going to inherit a lot of money from their predecessors, from their families, because that the generation will pass it on. So financially, mentally, and technologically wise, they're in the correct position. And so they'll be the ones that are going to be running the country soon, and if not with politically, monetarily. Because if Bitcoin and other maybe select cryptocurrencies are going to fuel the economy through currency and open finance, then we're voting with the most sound money, and that's Bitcoin, and
right.
we're doing open finance with other protocols as well. So that's going to move the needle. I'm not sure how much people believe it, but there definitely is a sense of urgency to find something different, right? Yeah, if we always do what we've always done, we're always going to get old.
Right, the same thing.
So
exactly.
Everybody kind of feels it, like it's a gut feeling that we have to do something different, and then mentally, they're reading, they're seeing different things, and it's kind of giving them a dual reality. One of everything's okay, and the other one saying my gut and my head somehow is saying it's not okay. And so millennials are part of that, that bigger, are part of that, they're feeling it. But you asked me to go into millennials specifically. So my view is that for millennials, they like everyone, we still have to learn. So we have to kind of like be more generalists in our view, so that we can help each other move forward, and maybe even more so the millennials, because they're coming into the prime of their life to be leaders, but they need input from the older generations,
right?
So that they can have a more balanced view of how to a more wise, maybe be a more wise generation of. And start to undo what previous generations have done. Just my dealing with people in general, and specifically with millennials, because I have a lot of millennial friends. Yeah, and that's how I perceive them. They're very open to tech and to trying different things, and they understand that somehow tech is going to help them push through this, financially and socially. Because they're more interactive with tech than anybody else.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the when I said that they need input, just like anybody needs input, it's that probably you've seen studies about millennials interacting more with their phones than they do with other people. And there's more strength when you have that interaction with other people, not only apps or dApps.
Right.
it's a synergy that will help them move forward if they can learn to work with other people with diverse points of views.
Yep.
And also in person too. I know right now that's not as popular, but there is no substitute for meeting people in person.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's such a rich experience, and I don't think in the short term it can be replaced by any technology, even with the AR, that type of experience, right?
Right.
We still expect to see face, and then that's a hope the COVID-19 can go by, quickly, and then we can reconnect, offline.
Right.
That will be good.
What we try to do is fast track people, so we make it easy for them to navigate through all the different sectors in the crypto and blockchain industry. So, what I say is that there's information overload, and there's decision fatigue.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's decision fatigue. So we try to take that away from them, and of course, that means they have to trust us. The SparkOne can be, spark your concept, your idea about anything, but I think it's really good for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And so that was one of the things that really attracted me to your project, Hui. And over the years, we kind of talked about that. And so that's why I believe in it, because it does all those things that I was talking about. You can hopefully gain a network, collaborate with people who can make your project better, and also with innovative ideas, and just make the world more productive place, right?